Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of WN Movie Talk podcast. I'm Trev and I'm here to discuss this week. It's basically a recap of the films of 2023. It's a new year, so happy new year everyone. 2024 is upon us. Time flies on. So it's been a bit of a strange year for WN Movie Talk. I lost my brother Robin. I didn't lose him. I know exactly where he is, but he just doesn't want to make podcasts with me anymore. I did make a couple with my mate Stab, but a few too many technical issues, and it just became a bit of a ball ache. So I've also done a few, as you know, on my own. But it's changing, but I love to talk about films, so I'm going to keep coming back every now and again with bits that I can. So if you are following me, that's fantastic. If you're enjoying these, please do give me a rating wherever you're listening to this. Subscribe, follow me. Go over on our socials as well, on Facebook, WN Movie Talk, over on Facebook, or Instagram. I don't do so much on Instagram, if I'm honest. I was doing some TikTok, but I don't really do that either. But it's just mainly Facebook and, more importantly, YouTube. I've started a YouTube channel. I would love to see you over there subscribing to that. As soon as I can get to 1,000 subscribers, I might be able to make some money, because I don't make anything on the podcast. And the thing is, I'm a YouTuber by nature, and I started this podcast, and it's very hard to hear feedback. You know, you don't get a lot of feedback coming in, whereas YouTube, it's all about the feedback and the comments, and you can see what's going on. So anyway, you know, go over to YouTube. I've started editing some of my old podcasts, but there's also a lot of exclusive content on there now. Things like me going through my DVD collection and discussing stuff like that. And, well, just have a look. Anyway, it'd be great to see more of you over there subscribing to WN Movie Talk on YouTube. Thank you. Anyway, it's 2024. I've put some questions out to you guys. What were your highs and lows of the year? I'll be coming to that in a bit. But first of all, like last year, I'm going to go through the sort of the top 10, international top 10 of 2023. Highest grossing films of the year. See how many I've seen or not. As I didn't get to watch every film that I wanted this year. But I also didn't go and watch any Marvel films. I flat out refuse. I'm boycotting Marvel films. I don't know about you. Superhero films. They're streaming in a couple of weeks. If the kids want to watch them, they just have to wait a while. You know, it's not like when we were kids and we had to wait months and months for a film to come out on video, if it even did. But you know, in this day and age, it's strange. Streaming it's all over the place, isn't it? As well. It's frustrating me. I love my DVDs, physical media, they call them. So I'm collecting physical media at the moment, DVDs, and go into the cinema as much as I can, as long as there's something on I want to watch. And it seemed like a massive section of the year where there was just crap on every week, and I didn't want to go. But we'll discuss that as we go through. But yeah, there's so many streaming services now that you're just paying over the odds for all this stuff. And then at Christmas, we went to watch like Christmas Vacation, and then that was only on Amazon, and you had to pay £4. And I'm like, I've got it on DVD somewhere, just dig it out. You could be a member of Amazon Prime and still end up having to pay, and I think that's awful. That's awful. And then you could look for films and not find them because they're not there anymore, and streaming sites take them off. I am all about the DVDs, and I'll be doing a lot more on the YouTube channel about the my DVD collection and my DVD collecting. So stay tuned for that if you're interested in that sort of thing. That'll be great. Anyway, 2023, I'll go through the top 10. As I said, I'll discuss what I've seen, what I haven't, what my views are. Then I'll go through your lists, and then I'll go through the year of films that I actually have got around to watching. So the top 10 of the year, Ant-Man and the Wasp at number 10, Quantum Mania. That made $476 million worldwide. So my boycott's not working. I don't know what they're like. I haven't been interested to watch one. Number 9, Pixar film Elemental. It's made $496 million. Now, this is the first film on the list that I've watched. Only because we bought a 4K TV this year. We got home and I knew that Disney films were 4K and this new Pixar looked good. And I think I actually was watching a demo of this film in the shop and it made me think, oh, let's go and watch it. The colours are absolutely amazing. It's absolutely vivid. Just having a 4K TV makes all the difference. So I was really impressed by it. I enjoyed it for that reason. It's basically about elements that move into Element City, where they are... where, you know, they face xenophobia from other elements. Yeah, basically another Disney film sort of drumming in the morals that society needs and acceptance and all that sort of stuff. Just a bit of a sideline. We watched 3 films this year, Christmas films, 3 new Christmas films or ones we hadn't seen from the last year or 2. And it's all getting a bit much with them trying to drum home morals and righteousness, and it puts you off a film. It literally was watching these 3 films. It was like playing inclusion bingo. You know, it's like, oh, for God's sake, it's just getting a bit far-fetched now, a bit silly, and it detracts from a film to me, which, you know, Christmas films are a bit silly and far-fetched anyway, but Jesus Christ. Anyway, that's just my feelings. Number 8, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. I didn't see this. I saw it being filmed last year when I was up in the Lake District doing some hiking. Actually filmed Tom Cruise jumping out of a helicopter in one of our videos on our Summit or Nothing channel. Didn't realise until later on that it was Tom Cruise filming Mission Impossible, but it was. Still didn't make me want to go and watch it though. I'm not a big action fan. I'm not a big Tom Cruise fan, even though I do like the thought that he does his own stunts, and pretty impressive really. I'm amazed he gets insurance. But, you know, Tom Cruise, to me, is Tom Cruise in every film he's ever in. He doesn't hide in a character. He's always just, oh, I'm Tom Cruise and I'm awesome and amazing and I'm the best of the best and all that shit. Yeah, loses me. That made $560 million. Mental. The Little Mermaid, Disney's remake. We're not big into Disney in our house, to be honest. The kids don't watch a Disney film. I never really watched Disney films growing up. So I did have a nephew and niece who used to watch a lot of the Disney films. So I have seen like The Little Mermaid and Aladdin, but we're not that bothered about the live action ones, so we missed that. That made 569 million. Okay, first film of the list that I actually did go to the cinema to watch, and it is a Marvel film actually. It's Sony, so it's not actually Marvel, but Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Now, I quite enjoyed it. It was all right. As far as animations go, it was decent. It's visually stunning. I think that would be a good one to get in 4K for our TV. But yeah, Spider-Man's one of my favourite characters. And my son is a massive Spider-Man fan, so we couldn't not go and watch that one. So that made 690 million. Fast X. So the new Fast and the Furious, that's number 5. I haven't watched a Fast and Furious film since the first 1 or 2. I lost interest then. I'm not into this, like I said, high octane, high action, car chases, and it loses me. Not interested at all. But that's number 5, and that made 704 million. It's crazy. Number 4 was Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Still not seen it. It's been on the streaming platform for ages. I still haven't watched it. Not bothered. Number 3. Now, at the time when this came out, I should have gone and watched it, and I haven't. I still haven't seen it. But at the time, there's a lot going on in the news that sort of made me think, yeah, I don't know if I want to watch a film about nuclear bombs. Oppenheimer. Everyone says it's impeccable. My son went to watch it, and he come back, a lot of talking. That's what he said. He's 19. It's made 952 million. It's also, I was talking about physical medias, DVDs, isn't it one of the highest grossing Blu-ray sales ever? 4K Blu-ray. It's just sold phenomenally well. So I'll probably get it on 4K, actually, watch it through there. Because did you know I've got a 4K telly now? I know, a bit behind it, and I live in Devon. So we usually get everything like 5 years after everyone else. But yeah, Oppenheimer, Chris Nolan's a funny one, really. I do enjoy his films, but sometimes I think they're a bit slow and a bit long-winded, and I find them hard to sit through again. And I think there was a couple of things that sort of made me not want to watch this at the time. So I haven't watched it yet. I know I should, and I am looking forward to watching it. Number 2. Now we're getting up into the big money. Making $1,361,000,000 is the Super Mario Brothers movie. Now, all right, it's not a prequel. It's not a sequel, but it's a franchise, isn't it? These things, they cashing in on toys and games. Everyone said it was incredible. Oh, you want to watch it? And the kids, I think my oldest son took them to the cinema to watch, and we sort of watched it online, well, over Christmas actually, and I thought it was pretty naff. I thought it was exactly what I thought it was going to be. Do you know what I mean? So I did lose a bit of interest in it. I didn't think it was anything special. Wasn't that bothered about it. And then number 1, the big scorer of the year, grossing worldwide $1,441,000,000, is Barbie. So Barbie and Oppenheimer came out at the same time. Everyone was gushing over the pair of them. I didn't watch either of them. I still haven't watched Barbie. I still don't know if I'm interested to watch Barbie or not. But there we go. That was the top 10. So, yeah, don't worry, I have watched films, just not the sort of films that everyone else has watched by the looks of it, I'll go through my films in a minute. But first of all, let's go and find what you had to say about your 2023. Over here. Okay, so I asked you, basically, as I said, on YouTube and on the Facebooks, what were your highs and lows of 2023? Gren Chiapra says, Happy New Year to you and your family, Trev. All the best for 2024. I thought Bullet Train was good, and 2 Nick Cage films, Renfield and The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, were surprisingly good. Yeah, do you know what? I saw them both at our cinema, and I didn't know to watch them or not, really. Nick Cage he's a funny one, isn't he? But The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, it looked exactly after I saw a poster of it and I didn't know what to make of it. And I thought, I'll Google that and find out what that's about. And I Googled it and I thought the premise sounded really good. It's the one, isn't it? No, it's not the same one, actually. Sorry. Yeah, so it sounds like Nicolas Cage sort of sending himself up again. It does sound good. But there was another Nick Cage film Dream Scenario. That's the one that I was going to watch. And I saw a poster for it and I thought, I wonder what that's about. Yeah, so this is the one where he plays a chap that keeps turning up in people's dreams. And typically, as it says in Google here, in Wikipedia, typically as a reserved and emotionless bystander with uncanny and amusing events. I can't remember where I read it, but I just remember reading the concept of it and thought, that sounds brilliant. So I thought, right, next week I've got a free night, I'll go and watch it. But it had stopped playing, so I missed it. But there you go. Thanks anyway, Gren. Sounds like a really great year for Nicolas Cage last year. 2 films you recommended, plus that one I want to watch. So got some catching up to do. Nathan Kent. He says, movie highs, Godzilla -1, The Eight Mountains, Oppenheimer, The Fabelmans, and Saltburn. Saltburn keeps popping up. Everyone sort of grossed out by it, aren't they? Be quite interested to see that. I like a gross out film, or, a film that's disturbing. The only one out of those I've watched is The Fabelmans. I will discuss that a bit later. I really enjoyed that. The Eight Mountains, Nathan's mentioned to me before. And Godzilla, I'm not a fan of Godzilla films. Every time I'd watch one, I think, no, I'm not that bothered about it. So I'd never go to watch them. Movie lows, The Expendables 4, The Expendables, and The Exorcist reboot. Now, I saw The Exorcist reboot and was absolute shite, wasn't it? It started off quite intriguing and then it just went ridiculous. Just horror films. They tend to be crap. I don't know. You're never going to match The Exorcist, but there you go. And then he's put, most looking forward to Dune Part 2, Furiosa and Nosferatu in 2024. Me too. Nosferatu, I am really looking forward to. I do like Robert Eggers' films. The Witch, I watched that again recently at Halloween. And it's just an impeccable film, isn't it? The Lighthouse was really good. The Norseman, I reviewed last year. I mentioned last year. Yeah, it was all right. But yeah, I've heard great things about this Nosferatu already. There's good word on the street, good buzz about that one. Jason Paris says, Wonka was a triumph. I've heard this. I still haven't watched it. We was going to watch it over Christmas. Take the kids to the cinema to watch it. We still didn't get around to it. I got a PS5 for Christmas, so nothing happened. Piero Canuti says, not a great year for film releases in my opinion, but if I had to pick from a bunch that I've seen, it probably looks something like this. Highs, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, Oppenheimer, Barbie. To be clear, this was my daughter's choice and had nothing to do with Margot Robbie was in it. Lows, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and Renfield. See, you've probably heard on the podcast, I didn't think Indiana Jones was too bad. I enjoyed it. I think it's a shame that Spielberg and Lucas didn't come back for it, just to help sort of see Harrison Ford off, I didn't think it was a bad ending for the film. It was lacking something, but yeah, I don't know. I've heard lots of bad reviews, and then I sort of caught it on the last night it was at the cinema, and I thought, oh, I wish I'd just kind of seen that sooner. So you never always know, do you? It's all down to yourselves, isn't it? Alan Day says June Part 2. And then, and last but definitely not least, Keith Chapman says, to be honest, there wasn't much that stuck out. Enjoyed Knock at the Cabin. Evil Dead Rises was fun. And Beau is Afraid was an interesting watch. Looking forward to the Mad Max spin-off. Okay, thank you, Keith. So, yeah, you're a bit of a horror fan by the looks of it. Again, out of those Evil Dead Rises I've not watched, I haven't seen the original Evil Deads. I've got them. I haven't watched them yet. So I need to watch those. And Beau is Afraid, I was really looking forward to watching that. We was on holiday and it was playing at a local cinema there where we was. So I booked to go and watch it. And then as I was on my way there, it was in Bath, there was a roadblock and I couldn't get around. I couldn't find the cinema. I missed it. Anyway, I streamed it months later and I found it hard to get into. It was a bit too jarring. I like weird, I like disturbing, but I was watching it late one night and I didn't finish it, watching it at home as well. But I really enjoyed Midsummer and Hereditary, so I was looking forward to the new Ari Aster. So I will give it another watch. Anyway, that's the top 10, and that's your films. So now I'm going to discuss my 2023 in film. Well, I'm back. So, yeah, I'm going to start the rundown of the films that I've watched this year, the ones that stuck out, or because it's hard to remember what you've watched and what you haven't, isn't it? So I've gone through a couple of lists of like the films of 2023 and sort of ticked them off. And I'll start by one that I've just told you 10 minutes ago that I haven't watched. But in the time in between recording the first bit of the podcast and this bit here, there's been like a day or two. And last night I actually sat and watched Oppenheimer. Me and my wife watched it. She fell asleep. I don't think she was finding it boring. She's just tired. But I thought it was brilliant. Yeah, so I thoroughly enjoyed it. Chris Nolan, like I say, I say that, sometimes his films can be a bit long-winded. I don't know that they are, but they always, to return to them always feels like that. But what I love about Chris Nolan films is just the way that he shuffles time, the way that he can tell a cohesive story in such a fragmented order. And I know people hail Tarantino as a bit of a genius for the way he wrote Pulp Fiction, but to me, that's just an anthology film with three or four stories, and he's just put them in a different order than they happened. You could put them in any order and the film would still work. Whereas Chris Nolan, he's leading you from the past through flashbacks, you're in the future, telling the story of, and it's sort of just thematical in the way that the story is told. But I mean, since Memento, of course, that was really played with time. The concept of time with 10-minute segments telling the story backwards. Really clever bloke. And then Dunkirk, where you've got, wasn't it like an hour, a day and a week or something in 3 stories being told? Absolutely great. Even following back, his debut film. And just what a star-studded cast as well. There's just every time another character walked in, you're like, oh, it's them. Really great. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I can't wait to watch it again. So, I wish I had just gone and watched it at the cinema instead of being a bit of a fool. But there you go. Anyway, so my 2023 started this year, as I mentioned a bit earlier, with The Fabelmans, which is the Spielberg film based on his own life. Me and my wife went to watch it, and again, that was a great story. I knew the story of Spielberg as a child, and I've seen the documentary Spielberg, which is all about his life and his family and his films and how his films reflect his family life. But The Fabelmans was a great story. It's all based around his youth and his passion for film and being a Jew in an American suburban community. But you can see his influences. You could see where films like E.T. and Close Encounters and, even Indiana Jones and Saving Private Ryan, where all these films sort of took their first forms in his mind. A really great film. What I didn't like about it, you might think this is a bit of a picky thing to not like about it, but the beginning, when the film starts and he's like, hello, I'm Spielberg, and this is all about me, about my life. And I thought, why is he didn't need to do that. We know it's that. Anyone who's gone to watch The Fabelmans knows that's it. It just felt a bit pretentious. But I suppose he's that famous now that he can do that. But another person who done something similar was when I went to watch Killers of the Flower Moon, and Scorsese turns up at the end, and the end of that, where they're doing this like radio play or something, and he turns up and does this, and it's like a school recital. It's just weird, and I just thought, you don't need to be here, Scorsese. I love you. I love your films, but we don't need to see you doing that. I don't know. Is that judgy of me? You tell me. So The Fabelmans, yeah, was a good one. What other films have I seen this year? Another one I really, really enjoyed, which sort of flopped, which I'm so upset that it flopped. I think The Fabelmans was a sort of a flop as well, wasn't it? It didn't really do the numbers that they was hoping, which is such a shame because Spielberg, he's great film director, and he does deserve to sort of tell his story. But another film that I was really looking forward to, went to watch, and I went with Stan, who's spoken on the podcast before. We went together, and we was the only two in the cinema. And this is like the week it came out as well. And I was like, that's not a good sign. And then, as I was watching the figures coming in, the reviews were really good, but the public just didn't go and watch it. And that was the Creator. Now, at the time, I suppose AI was in the news a lot, and everyone sort of saying about how AI is awful. It was, so whether that was something to do with it, people didn't want to see a film about AI, and it's almost favourable to AI, isn't it? It uses AI. There's like a war between humans and robots, but the artificial intelligence sort of bring this child into being, and Joshua, the main character, has got to go and rescue this child, or I can't remember quite the premise. It seems a long time ago now, but the effects was amazing. It's directed by Gareth Edwards, who, in my opinion, has made the best Star Wars film since Empire Strikes Back with Rogue One. It's definitely the best of the new Star Wars films. And I mean, it's just the creator as well. It's just visually stunning, and it was made on practically a shoestring budget for this type of film. I mean, it wasn't cheap by any means, but instead of costing like 200 million for a massive sci-fi film, this one cost, I think it was like 60 or 70 million, something like that. So he's really effective, cost-effective filmmaker, and I think it's impeccable. I thought it was some really great visuals, and I really enjoyed it. I don't think Stan enjoyed it as much. He sort of said it wasn't what he was hoping it was, what he was expecting, and he was a little bit disappointed, which is a shame, but yeah, I thought it was a great film. Another one I went to see more recently was Ridley Scott's Napoleon. Now, I think it was the night it came out. I think it was the night it started at the cinema. I went in expecting a Ridley Scott historical drama. I watched a Ridley Scott historical drama. I don't really know the facts about Napoleon. I thought it was a bit odd, the character, played by Joaquin Phoenix. But I didn't mind the film. I was absolutely surprised to read just how it was absolutely getting slated the following day when I was reading reviews. And a lot of this, I think, a lot of the things with podcasters and YouTubers, they're afraid to speak their own mind sometimes, do you know? And I think a lot of people just jumped on the bandwagon because I think what happened was it started to be picked up for its historical inaccuracies. The first reviews that sort of flooded in that was getting bad tended to be from the French. Now, you know, he's probably a hero to the French, isn't he? So they're probably like, you've made a tit of our, you know, one of the most important figures in French history. And yes, there was a lot of historical accuracies. And yes, it was a strange love story. But for someone well in his 80s to kick that film out in like 6 weeks, I think he filmed it. And the battle scenes I thought were great, especially the end, the Battle of Waterloo. And was it Rupert Everett as Wellington? He was just great. He seemed really grisly, really like snarly. And I've been told that battle was not accurate at all. There's a few lines in it that a couple of weeks later I watched Waterloo, the old 1970 film. And I mean, that is an epic. That is amazing. It follows that battle in a lot more detail. But there's some bits in that were in Ridley Scott. So, I mean, it's up to him what he does with his films. Not everyone likes it. I mean, I watched Gladiator recently, well, after watching Napoleon, and I mean, I was never a massive fan of Gladiator, but I revisited it after watching Napoleon, and it's all right. He's a good filmmaker, but he's not always my cup of tea. But I don't know, it got this absolute ribbing. I mean, you go on, I look it up on Google, and it's got a 2.2 rating out of 5. Yeah, it's awful for a Ridley Scott film. Most of the ratings are 1 star. But yeah, I didn't think it was too bad. I enjoyed it at the cinema. I wouldn't say it was gripping, but it was interesting and it was enjoyable. And I just watched all the Sharps, so I wanted to go and see this anyway. Having watched that, I wanted to know a little bit more about the Napoleonic Wars. Turns out I wasn't learning a lot by the sounds of it, but give the guy a break. He's all right. Another one of the big blockbusters this year I watched was Ballads of Songbirds and Snakes, which is the new Hunger Games prequel. Now, if this was like a cash-in from the studios, I probably wouldn't have gone and watched it, but I knew it was based on a book because my wife, I bought her the book last year. I think it was either for her birthday or Christmas, because we both read the Hunger Games books, really enjoyed them. And I thought, she could read the prequel, she might like that. And she said it was really good. And then when we found out there was a film coming out, she was like, I cannot wait to watch it. So the Hunger Games, the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, follows a young President Snow. And it's like the Hunger Games has only just started, really. Great casting of Casca Highbottom, with the Peter Dinklage. So I asked my wife, I said, is he like vertically challenged in the book? And she said, I don't think he was. I couldn't remember him being that. So I think it was just, casting him. I mean, he is a great actor and he does do a lot of roles where it doesn't specifically ask for a shorter person, doesn't it? You know what I mean? And he is good and he has a presence about him. I just think it's a bit of a coincidence that he's called Highbottom, or maybe not. Maybe that was like, let's give him the job as a bit of a joke. But again, this film has not got that many good reviews. It's 3.4. It's better than Napoleon, but on Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic, it seems to be 64%, 54%. It's not done great, but I thought it was good. I don't know. I enjoyed it more than I enjoyed The Phantom Menace when that came out. Let's say that, I enjoyed it more than the third Hunger Games film, or the third and fourth, where they split it into two, and it sort of, they wasn't as good as the first two, I thought. But I enjoyed this one a lot more, even though it did go up and you see the Hunger Games and it all finishes. And then there's like another hour or so left. I mean, films are longer these days. They tend to be. But I'm not one to complain about that because, it's only 2 hours and 38 minutes. It feels longer than most. It felt longer than Oppenheimer. And I think it's because it feels like there's a resolution and then the film carries on. And you sort of prepare for the film to end, and then you get a bit restless in the end half. But no, I did enjoy it, and I will look forward to watching. If there's more on their way, I'd like to watch them. I think The Hunger Games has been good. Rachel Zegler as Lucy Gray Baird, she was good. chap that I worked with, when I said I was going to watch it, he said, it won't be the same without Jennifer Lawrence. But no, she holds her own. She's quite good, sassy. She's the tribute for whatever zone it was, and President Snow is her mentor. He's not President Snow at the time, though, is he? But I quite like Jason Schwartzman in it as the presenter. Yeah, I did. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was good. But one of my, and then another big budget film that I watched, which again I almost didn't watch, and I mentioned it earlier, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Now, yeah, it was a bit of fun. I won't go on too much about it because, I spoke a bit about it earlier. It was a shame that the others didn't join in as it was. But Harrison Ford's last outing as Indiana Jones, John Williams' last musical score. So, momentous in that effect. But yeah. It's like with all these films, they are flogging dead horses, but I quite liked it. I've done a podcast all about it. If you want to hear my views on that, go back and hear my reasoning for enjoying it. I certainly thought it was better than Crystal Skulls, which I watched recently with my son, and the beginning starts off really good, but the end just end up rubbish. But I like the sort of the fantastic ending of Dial of Destiny. I think it was a great ending. Some people would say, that would never happen, it's far-fetched. But I mean, look at the endings of every other Indiana Jones film, they're all far-fetched. That's how Indiana Jones goes. So it's not really an argument to me. And then there was a film that I found surprisingly good, which one night I was at home flicking through the telly. I didn't watch this one at the cinema, but it did come out this year. And it was Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Amongst Thieves. Now, I watched it on my own at first, and then I was thinking, my family should be watching this with me. It is quite a funny film, and they'd probably enjoy it. So we did. I did sit and watch it again when my family was all with me another time, and we all enjoyed it. Good fun. Hugh Grant, he used to be typecast as the posh, hapless lover boy, didn't he? And now he is typecast as the villain. I do enjoy him as a villain, and he was quite good in this as the sort of the treacherous friend who betrays them all. Chris Pine was good as the main guy, with Michelle Rodriguez as his partner in crime. It's very similar in the sense of humour as like Princess Bride and Starlight. And they're two good, fantasy films I quite enjoyed. So yeah, definitely one worth watching if you haven't seen that already. And then we talked about Super Mario Brothers a bit earlier. Didn't really enjoy that. It was exactly what I thought it was going to be. There was nothing clever or special about it. It looked like Mario. It had Mario sound effects. Chris Pratt's accent was a bit to be desired as Mario, but it's just a cash in, isn't it, for the kids? So then we're getting on to sort of dramas. I've watched two that spring to mind. The first is a true story set during COVID times, and it's a film called Dumb Money. And it's basically, I saw the trailer and I thought that looked quite interesting. Stars Paul Dano as a YouTuber, Keith Gill, and he took basically GameStop stock was going under, and like the hedge funders in Wall Street were buyout companies and just run them into the ground. And he used his platform on YouTube to sort of say, look, I'm going to take a bet here. I'm going to buy loads of this stock. I think we can protect it, sort of thing. I haven't got a head for finance. My wife watched it. She understood it a bit more. She's an accountant. I fit Windows, for Christ's sake. I'm an idiot. But he sort of goes on YouTube saying, look, I'm going to put all my money, all my house, all my savings, 50 grand or something to buy these stocks. And then other people do. And it just ends up going mental. And like I say, this is all a true story. This all actually happened. I heard an interview with the director, Craig Gillespie. But he said, when they was filming the film, the end of the film hadn't even happened. When they first started going into production and planning it. So the end is like the sort of the hearing. It had to go through, all the players involved had to go through this sort of tribunal thing, and that hadn't happened at the time. It was announced when they was just going into production, so that was all filmed at the end. But Paul Dano, plays this chap Keith Gill. He's really good in it, and it's great to watch it as he's taking all these hedge funders, these greedy bastards, to the cleaners. You know, all these people they are the bane of society, aren't they? They're just swindling money out of companies and all for self-gain. And he's there trying to save the day. He's not doing it for himself. It's just great. A great sort of David versus Goliath story. And it's really told in a way that's it's modern, it's fast-paced, it is good. Yeah, I enjoyed that one at the cinema. And then more recently was the Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon, which basically another true story. It's an epic Western sort of crime drama, which tells the story of the Osage murders. It's all basically, again, greedy white men in America, or they found oil on like the Osage Indians reservation. And obviously they want in. So they start marrying the women and then killing them off. And it's a hideous story, but it's true. Leonardo DiCaprio is sort of brought in under Robert De Niro. It's nice to see them both in a film together with Scorsese, you know, because Scorsese worked with De Niro for years and years and then sort of went over to DiCaprio. And it's nice to see them both working together under Scorsese. They have been in a film together before, wasn't they? This Boy's Life. Wasn't they both in that when DiCaprio was a young child? But yeah, DiCaprio's sort of the hero. He's not the hero. He's the one we're following the film through. And he marries this Native American, Molly, played by Lily Gladstone. And one by one, they're sort of killing her family off. De Niro's sort of behind it. And DiCaprio is complicit in it. And this is what was hard, because you're watching it and you're thinking that is his wife. He says he loves her. And at the end, you know, you're sort of like, is he going to kill his own wife off? How's it all going to end? It's Jesse Plemons plays the FBI agent. You know, Jesse Plemons, he's been in a few things. He's quite an odd looking chap. He was in Breaking Bad, I think it was the first time I ever saw him. He's also in The Irishman, was Scorsese Irishman, but he plays the FBI agent who's sort of tracking him down and trying to get to the bottom of it. Yeah, I did it. I thought that was a really good film, really great movie to see Scorsese return. Again, 3 hours and 26 minutes long. These films are getting huge, aren't they? But it is an epic story, and if anyone can make an epic story, it's Scorsese. And I think to watch it in the cinema, it didn't feel too long. You know, it is a long story, but I never thought, oh God, I want this to end. But that's mental, isn't it? Films are nearly pushing 4 hours. But then you see people like on social media, I see it all the time going, oh, I've just watched this. Why is that film so long? 3 hours long. The same people will then put up the next day, oh, we've just binge watched all of the Walking Dead on a Sunday. And it's like, well, that's, you know, hours and hours of watching the same thing. So why is that any different to watching a 3 hour film? I don't know, but there you go. So the last films that I'd like to talk about, sort of horrors that I've watched. One of them in particular I was really looking forward to. I mentioned earlier, Beau is Afraid. But I don't know. What I liked about Ari Aster's Hereditary and Midsommar, they felt like they was taking place in a real world. It felt like there was a horror within our world, a real existence. And I was looking forward to this, Beau is Afraid, for a long time. I like an odd film, but I just couldn't get into this, and I watched it at home and I got halfway into it. I need to pick it up again, but at the time I just couldn't pick it up again. The next night I was like, oh, I can't be bothered to watch that. I watched something else and I haven't got back on with it. So I do need to watch it again. But he's like a mild-mannered, anxiety-ridden misfit, basically. But he lives in this horrific neighbourhood. I don't know if it's going to, you know, it's quite surreal how things happened. And it's like almost like cannibals. And I don't know. It's very odd, very strange. But again, I will need to watch it again because it's, we'll need to finish it, basically. So horrors, for me, they either do it or they don't. And I suppose that's a bit of a horror comedy drama. I don't quite know how you'd label it. But then I went to watch, or then came online as well, Exorcist Believer. Now, I almost went to the cinema to watch this, and I thought, no, every time I go to the cinema to watch a horror film, I am completely disappointed and wish I hadn't bothered. And I think I would have done the same having watched this one. Because it just, to me, it was, like I said earlier, it started off quite well, quite atmospheric. The possessions and the exorcisms, it just all gets too far, doesn't it? It all goes too far-fetched now, you know? And it's just unbelievable. And I'm watching it. There's no real tension or fear there. I think it was good up until the point that they found the girls. Basically, when the two girls go missing and you're following the dad and the parents and it was a good build-up. And then it just goes to shit. And especially where they bring in Ellen Burstyn's character, Chris McNeil. And she comes in and now all of a sudden she's not just a mother whose daughter had gone through this. She's like an exorcist herself. And then she comes in and then it's just horrendous what they do to her. And you think, you didn't need the money. What are you doing here? Really? I think she turned it down. I read somewhere that she turned it down and then she still ended up going back. I don't know what convinced her to go into this film. But it was naff. It was rubbish. I'll just discuss quickly another film that I watched, which is a documentary film, before I get on to the last film, the horror section. But this is a documentary called The Devil on Trial on Netflix. And it's the true story of the third Conjuring, or the Conjuring film, The Devil Made Me Do It, from 2021. This is the true story of that. And I haven't seen The Devil Made Me Do It. I started to watch it after I watched this documentary and I switched it off like within about 10 minutes because it's just fucking nonsense. It is so unbelievable. The Conjuring films are awful. I think the first one started off well and then just goes to shit at the end. This one just started off ridiculous shit already. You know, it's like all these contorting, demonic, possessed children. It just is so horrendously far-fetched. And they absolutely glamorise this couple, the Warrens. And they was horrendous people, really. You know, they made a fortune. And that's what this documentary goes into. The way it starts, it tells the story of, oh, this boy was possessed. You know, the Warrens come in and they're trying to help him and all this. But as the documentary goes on, you hear from the people who it occurs to and it's happening to, but you don't hear from one of the brothers and the dad. And then as the story evolves and then at the end it switches and you hear from the other brother and he's basically going, you know, it was all shit. It was all suggestive. The things really picked up when the Warrens came round and they put ideas in the boy's head and it all sort of kicked off from there. And yeah, I thought this documentary was really good. I haven't put many documentaries, you know, it's the first documentary I've actually mentioned here, but I just wrote it down anyway because I thought, no, that was a real gripping watch because you're watching it and you're like, oh, this is true. This has really happened. Oh my God, how did this? And then as the story goes on, it just all unravels and you realise what a load of wank, you know, it is. So that's why I wanted to watch The Conjuring. The Devil Made Me Do It just to see. And within minutes, it's just so far-fetched, so ridiculous. Not my sort of horror film. Whereas I did watch the Australian horror film Talk to Me. A group of friends, basically, they've got this withered, mummified hand, and they basically take it. It's a party game. They take it to parties, and they speak to it, and it possesses them. And through this hand, some ghost will possess each and one of them, and they're all just filming it, and it's all like TikTok era, you know, they're laughing at what's going on. I really enjoyed this. It was nice and short and simple, but it was grisly. It was scary, but it was a good sort of reflection of sort of drugs and peer pressure, you know, with youngsters. I thought it was really good. It was really great to see Miranda Otto as the mother in it, and she was real stern and just trying to keep her kids sort of head above water. But yeah, I watched it late one night, just on my own, and I saw it and it popped up on Netflix and I just hovered over it and just watched, you know, it sort of plays a clip and I just thought, oh, that looks good. And it's bearing in mind, this is about 11:30 at night. And I was like, I haven't really got time to watch a film, but I just start it. And then, yeah, ended up staying up watching it. And I think that was my favourite horror that I've watched for a long time. Probably since like the likes of It Follows or Midsummer, you know. It's effective, it's cool. It's not a jump scary thing, and it is gory and grisly in places, but there was something really great about it. I really enjoyed it. But anyway, so I don't think I've got a lot more films to discuss, to be honest. So I've probably missed some, but yeah, thank you everyone who got in touch with me. Thank you if you have listened to this. Again, please, if you are listening to this and you do come back and listen to me on different podcast things or Spotify or Audible or anything like that, just please go and rate me wherever you can. Give us a 5-star rating. Try and, give us a review somewhere. It'd be great to sort of bolster this channel a bit, because the podcast, really, it's been the thing I wanted to do for years, a film podcast, and it's the hardest thing to sort of get any traction on or any feedback. And as I say, I'm sort of doing the YouTube as well, to try and promote the other, but also to hear feedback and that. And it's a very slow burner, but it's what I want to do. I want to talk about films. That's what I want to do. You might have joined me from sort of the hiking community, where I'd done a hiking channel. And that wasn't never a passion. That was just something I'd done. I needed exercise. It's something I filmed, and we got this massive audience, and the channel blew up. But then it just, the more I did it, the less I wanted to do it. And the more people messaged me and talk about hiking equipment or tents, and the less I was interested. It just got to a point where it's like, I don't want to do this anymore. Film is what I've wanted to do for a long time, and it's so hard to get it all moving again. So please, 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 if you can in any way help, it would be amazing if you did. Share us, like us, subscribe to us, rate us. Yeah, if you've got 2 or 3 different platforms like Spotify or Audible or Podchaser, anything, if you're on loads of different things, just go and rate us on every single one. That'll be brilliant. It might take you a little bit of time, but I would certainly appreciate it. Anyway, so that was the recap of the films of 2023. I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope I haven't waffled on too much. It hasn't been too incoherent. Not a bad year for films. Not the worst, not the best, but yeah, there has been some good stuff, and we just have to see, haven't we, where all the streaming platforms are going to go, what's going to happen to the films at the cinema, what sort of films will get released. Because like I say, we're having a film like The Creator, which was almost an original idea, it's original, it's not a franchise, but films just don't get the promotion that they deserve, and therefore no one goes to watch it. And I think it's such a shame that original films are sort of getting brushed under the carpet, and all these franchise films are still the ones that are taking over the top 10. It is a shame. So unless you're an established director, or you're making a biopic, a sequel, a prequel, a superhero film, you're not really getting the look in, and it's a darn shame. So anyway, rabbled on too much. Thanks ever so much, everyone, for listening, and Happy New Year, and I will see you all again soon with some more podcasts. I might try and drag Stan in again for 1 or 2, but yeah, films. Talk about films. WN Movie Talk. Chase.